RTE Soccer Women's World Cup podcast, sponsored by Cadbury. For grassroots to national level, a supporter and a half of women's football in Ireland.
Turn the world round, shut the show down. I've been spinning, couldn't slow down. On the road now.
Hello, welcome to the RTE Soccer FIFA Women's World Cup podcast. That's a mouthful. I complained about the mouthful for Qatar. It's no less of a mouthful, but we'll get used to it because we're going to be, from next Monday, we will be doing a daily podcast here as the Girls in Green embark on their first ever World Cup campaign. I'm joined by Conor Neville of RTE Online and by Anthony Pyne of RTE Online, but Anthony is the jet-lagged creature in Brisbane. How are things, Anthony?
Things are good, Mikey. Yeah, I got here last night, midnight local time. So still trying to adjust, and shake out the old jet lag. But getting there, shaking it out of the legs, just as Ireland did in their open training session yesterday in front of about 100 fans at Brisbane. So, yeah, definitely. Look, I mean, straight away you can get a feel for the place. There's branding everywhere around the city. There was an event this evening with the ambassadors to Ireland, Tim Pauw, in the city in Brisbane, where some media attended that. And
did you stuff your pockets with Ferrero Rocher?
Yeah, there was no Ferrero Rocher, disappointingly, but there's definitely a sense around the place that something big is happening. Like, I was in Glasgow for the playoff. That week Celtic were playing RB Leipzig and Rangers were playing Liverpool, and I remember, I kind of got a few of the papers when I got there, and on the day of the match, you really struggled. There was very little about that playoff match there, but it's not the case here. It's everybody's going big on it, and we're now only a week away, and lots planned in Sydney as well. Big event in Darling Harbour as well, a watch party, a sort of FIFA festival event for anybody who can't get a ticket, because that game is sold out. Over 80,000 people sold out. Can't get them, Mikey.
Wow, that's incredible in itself. So tell us about your jet lag, for those of us, because it's a long old trek. Were you unable to sleep, unable to stay awake? Well, what is it?
This is a jet lag video diary, is it? Is this
No, it is actually it's informative in terms of what the players are going through, because now look, they've been here longer, and they flew business class as well. They flew out in two chunks.
For the record, RTE did not send Anthony Pyne to Australia business class. He did not.
Important to clarify that.
Yeah, he went in the luggage hold.
So they went on Friday and then on Saturday, and they've had a bit of time to adjust. But obviously, I mean, for anyone who's experienced, most people will have experienced a bit of jet lag at some point in their lives. This is, Australia. You can't fly any further before you start coming back, so it is a trek. 20 odd hours in the air. And it takes a bit of time to readjust for sure, but Vera Pauw has been pretty meticulous in her prep for this. She has a really strong backroom team as well. We got to meet some of them before we came out here, and there's a piece coming in the next couple of days. So it's all scientific these days. They're all GPS tracked, heart rate monitors, the recovery rates, all of that is very, very closely monitored. So she will see and tailor her training sessions to how they've adapted, I'm sure. And, they do have another game behind closed doors against Colombia on Friday to shake off any little bit of rust or jet lag that's still in the legs.
Yeah. Conor,
I did hear on that when the Ireland rugby team went to the first World Cup back in 1987 in New Zealand. I read an account where they were scrummaging straight off the plane, so it's obviously moved on, the science since then.
Rugby and player welfare have moved on quite a bit in general, not just in terms of jet lag. I was going to say, Conor,
anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably fortunate that that 88, 90, 94 era FAI, none of those tournaments were too far flung. The USA is 6 hours. Yeah, but it's not really jet lag area, because it's well detailed how the players traveled versus how the Blazers traveled. So it does sound like things are a little bit better organized, and they're more cognizant of the health impacts of such long haul travel.
Yeah, certainly. You'd shudder to think if obviously Keane kicked up a stink about them flying economy and back in the qualifiers in 2000 I believe that was sorted out pretty soon after that. I heard Vera Pauw say that she was really stressing how business class made it so much easier, and how business class to Australia was the equivalent of a 5-hour normal flight to Eastern Europe, so it certainly wasn't too bad out there. Incidentally, I was actually in Dublin Airport when they were heading out, and I bumped into Paul O'Flynn, and I momentarily thought he was seeing me off to my stag in Birmingham, but no, I recalled he was there to wish the Irish team goodbye, and I almost photobombed his 1 o'clock news report from that day, but yeah, I didn't in the end.
Here, we might as well listen to someone else who's been dealing with a bit of jet lag. This is Lucy Quinn chatting to Tony O'Donoghue, just about how they've recovered from jet lag, how they're looking at that, and also, more importantly, really, how she is endeavouring to break into Vera Pauw's first 11.
I'm good, yes. Much more to the point, how are you after that horrendous journey and your big training session?
Yeah, no, we knew it was going to be a long journey, but obviously that's part of it. And yeah, it's good to get training, good to get here, have a look around and get into the spirit of the things. And yeah, it's been really good so far.
How do you cope with the jet lag though? Because I believe that you guys have been doing a sort of a special way of dealing with it.
Yeah, obviously it is quite frustrating. I thought I got into quite a good routine and then was up at the crack of dawn this morning, couldn't get back to sleep. But yeah, it's just one of those things, you've got to do whatever you can to get into the routine of when you land. And obviously, yeah, they're planning training all around that to make sure we're fresh and injury free. And yeah, it's going well so far.
From your own point of view, Lucy, you've been such an important part of the journey to get here. What can you do to get back on the team?
Yeah, I'm doing everything I can, really. I feel like I've taken opportunities when I've been given them. For example, the USA camp, and yeah, I just train and try and absorb everything like a sponge and learn as much as I can. And I always want to bring energy to the team, and I feel like I'm doing that. And yeah, like when you work hard, you get your rewards, and I'm sure that I'll definitely get some.
What do you think happened in the USA camp? Because you were kind of on the fringes, but then you were right in the centre of things. What did you do to make that happen?
I think I just had a little chat with myself about showing a bit of personality. I always really want to do what the squad needs me to do, but I also need to bring what I bring to the table and show what I can bring to the team. So for me, I just wanted to show in spells what makes me effective in that position, and I think I was able to do that at times.
Do you feel it's a bit of a closed shop at the moment? I mean, is it hard to break into the side at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. I think, at this level, there are teams that play together and then start to build relationships and then take that into the next game. And yeah, it's effective. You have game plans, and the personnel that are in there for a reason. And yeah, it's definitely difficult to break into that. But, that's the point we're at. That's the level I want to play at. I want to be in there with the best, and I've just got to keep working hard.
Because I'm sure you don't want to just come to a World Cup, you want to play in a World Cup.
Yeah, obviously that's the dream. Getting selected and being in the squad is like a massive honour as it is. But yeah, of course you want to get on the pitch, and that fate isn't in my hands. So all I can do is everything I can do to make that possible.
Happy with the training facilities?
Yeah, no, it's been really nice. Hotel, the people that you meet out in the street. The city itself. Obviously it's a beautiful place to come, and we're very, very lucky.
Have you got family coming over?
I do, yeah. Mum, dad, sister, a couple of friends. So I feel sorry for them having to do that long odd journey, but they're up for it and they'll have a great time. And yeah, to have my family there will be really special.
Well, we wish you the very best of luck in all the games, and hopefully you get to play a big part in them.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully there's a hat trick in there somewhere. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, that was Lucy Quinn talking to Tony O'Donoghue, who flew out a couple of days ahead of Anthony. Anthony wasn't just kicking his heels, not bothered with that press conference. He was probably in the air while that was happening. Making fists with your toes in the carpet, maybe, like Bruce Willis was told to do in Die Hard to offset the jet lag. It's Tony's line of questioning is pertinent there, Anthony. I suppose kind of Lucy Quinn to some people is kind of a surprise, given where she was in terms of the squad, that kind of she made the final 23. But once you made the final 23, that's great, you're there. But breaking into the first 11 is the next trick, and everyone says Vera Pauw's first 11 is like Fort Knox, it's impenetrable. But I wonder, how many of the coaches going to this World Cup wouldn't have a very good idea of their first 11? They've made it to the World Cup finals having entrusted in a group of players. But do you think Vera Pauw's kind of trusted group is that bit tighter than your average elite coach?
No, I actually think the opposite because this her trusted 11, and I think we could all. I mean, I'll go through the 11 that I would be almost certain that will start, but that's an 11 that was formed in April. I mean, Sinead Farrelly is an integral part of that 11, but she's only played 2 games for Ireland, and she only made her debut in April against the USA. Lucy Quinn wasn't even in the squad initially for those 2 games against the USA, but she got called up because of an injury to Megan Campbell, and subsequently was the player of the match in the second game against the States. And again, like that, I mean, that probably shows like it's hard to read Vera Pauw, and the players probably feel that too, because she's not the only surprise here. I mean, Izzy Atkinson getting in was a real bolter. Jamie Finn missing out, and Leanne Kiernan missing out, or two. A lot of people would have said they were very, very unlucky not to be in.
Leanne is probably as much injury as anything, though, isn't it, or lack of fitness?
Well, that I mean, that's what Vera Pauw said again. Like, and she has referenced heart rate monitors and explosive actions, recovery from explosive actions. And when Leanne Kiernan played against Zambia, because she's had so little football in her legs with injury, she missed the whole club season with Liverpool. Obviously she fatigued quite quickly, and that was picked up on the GPS, and they looked at it, and they don't just rely on the eye, and they probably felt that she's just not going to be quite ready. Now, my opinion is that I think that was harsh, and I think also you'd have to say that Leanne Kiernan was never going to start any of these matches. She was always going to be on the bench, so she still had 3 weeks to tune up and get fitter. Could she have been in a condition where she could do a job off the bench for 10 or 15 minutes? I think so. I don't understand how she wouldn't have been. I'd also be worried that Ireland have a very good plan A, a very 5-4-1 rigid formation that's difficult for any team at this World Cup. Any team would find it difficult to penetrate that. The problem they have is if they do go a goal down, there's no obvious plan B that I can see. Like, for example, they don't readily switch to 4-4-2, which would really suit someone like Leanne Kiernan if you threw her up front beside Kira Carusa, or even Louise Quinn. If you threw Louise Quinn up for the last 10 minutes, which they tend to do when they're in desperate need for a goal. She's the type of player that's just very good around the box, breaking balls, half chances. She's still a really good finisher. And even in the cameo she had against Zambia, she had a goal that was ruled offside, but she finished it very, very well. So apologies, I have gone off on a slight tangent there. But with Lucy Quinn, I mean, I don't expect her to start next week. Maybe this is a good time to go through the 11 that I do start, Mikey, or do expect to start.
Yeah, go on.
Well, obviously, Courtney Brosnan will be in goals. Heather Payne will be right back. Again, that is something that was only that switch was made in April. So it's not like Heather Payne has never played right back before that. She has done that role, and she's done it for Ireland as well. She played there against Georgia last year. But generally speaking, Heather Payne has been the lone striker. She was switched to right wing back and looks very comfortable there, and she's been excellent there since that change was made. The defensive three will be Louise Quinn with Niamh Fahey and Megan Connolly, who can operate in the middle of the park, but is probably going to be dropped back instead of Diane Caldwell. And Katie McCabe will be stationed at left wing back. Again, contentious because she's such a strong player, and if only you could clone her. You're taking her out of the middle of the park. She just wants to be on the ball all the time. But the reason for that is because of the strength that the Aussies have in the wide areas. Like Sam Kerr they're probably the best striker at this tournament, but it's stopping the supply. You're not going to stop Sam Kerr scoring goals if she gets any half decent supply. So you cut out the supply. Ellie Carpenter is probably going to play right on the right for Australia. She's excellent. She's strong. She's quick. She's clever, and she's got great delivery. So Katie McCabe's job will be to cancel her out, and whoever wins that battle, Mikey, that is a huge. This game could hinge on that side, on Ireland's left and Australia's right. In the middle, then Sinead Farrelly. Technically excellent player alongside another technically brilliant player, Denise O'Sullivan, will probably Rusha Littlejohn in there with her, who'll be kind of tasked with breaking up play, hard running, aggressive. Marissa Shiva will play just ahead of them, and then Kira Caruso will lead the line. I think that third midfield spot with Littlejohn, the likes of Littlejohn, Lucy Quinn will be scrapping for that third spot. I think the other two are 100%, like Farrelly and O'Sullivan will absolutely be in. So that's what we're gonna be looking at. On paper, the idea is to, you've got 3 players in the middle, 2 players who are technically excellent in tight spaces, so they can keep a hold of the ball, give Ireland a chance to get their 2 wing backs high up the pitch to offer support to Shiva and Caruso. The danger is that if they get pinned back, like if Australia, if it's wave after wave of pressure, and they really pin Ireland back, now you've got a situation where your best player and your captain, Katie McCabe, is stationed at left wing back, and she can't do any damage from that part of the pitch. We need Kate McCabe high up in their half where she can swing balls into the box or take a shot on or take fullbacks on. So that's where the game we won and lost. Who's going to come out on top in terms of like enforcing their game plan on the other team? Because Australia are just going to play 4-4-2. That's how they'll set up.
It's the Irish curse, Conor, isn't it? We do seem to be often in a situation in men's and women's football that arguably our best players are fullbacks or are played at fullback, and yeah, it's good to have a strong fullback, but it's not really where you want your best player.
It's certainly been the case in the men's game in the last decade or so. I mean, it is frustrating that McCabe can't play in a more advanced position, given how much of a threat she is going forward. I'm interested to know whether. When was the last time Ireland really broke out of this kind of formation, this 5-4-1 formation, in your estimation, Anthony? I mean, has she been wedded to this for long? I mean, they were pretty conservative, I suppose, in the group phase, and it paid off for them. They've built it around a solid defence and ground out results against Finland and Scotland. Is there any scope to branch beyond that, or has she been inclined to at any point?
Well, no, and I think our squad selection tells us that, Conor. Like, as I said, I mean, there's no, like, the personnel changes, even our substitutions. If France is the most recent example, when Ireland were 2-0, 3-0 down, like the substitutions, the personnel is changing, but the system isn't changing. We're not really changing how we set up and how we play. So what we have is that sort of 5-4-1, or if you want to call it a 3-5-2, if you could possibly call it that, if you're maybe, but they're very, very disciplined, and it's extremely well drilled, and they really are well drilled. And I think even the first half against France, you could see what they're going to try and do then. You could see how well they're coached, or what they're doing on the training pitch in front. You could see that Marissa Shiva, in certain positions on the pitch, depending on where the ball is, she is filling a particular space on the pitch. Sinead Farley is doing the same on the other side, and they're like a seesaw. And for 45 minutes, it worked very, very well. But then in 3 minutes of stoppage time, they conceded 2 goals, and in the second half, they didn't look remotely like getting back into the game. Granted, against a very good France team, but they're going to be playing a very good Australia team, and we will get a good gauge on it tomorrow night when Australia play France in their final warm-up match. That will sort of tell us how close Australia are, because Australia, the last 2 years under Tony Gustafsson, it hasn't been totally plain sailing for them, but they do look like they're starting to come good at the right time. And if anybody saw their game against England in April, they bet England 2-0 in April. That was ominous. They had just lost to Scotland a few days prior to that, but they were missing a few important players. They were full strength against England, more or less, and they look good. But then again, Ireland bet Zambia 3-2. 3 weeks ago. Zambia then went out and bet Germany.
Oh, good. I love pre-tournament form line. It's always
look, this is it. It's
a rat's nest. It always is. The Australia, then, I guess you've mentioned like the branding is there. You get the sense that a big tournament is happening. Do you get the sense, like, because the Australians are famed for their kind of fairly rabid support of their national teams? I'm assuming it's no different here. It's it's a country 100% behind Australia, and woe betide the teams playing against them, I would imagine, because the Aussies, I hate the B word, but banter, trash talk, that kind of thing, they love it. Like, Australian fans love it, Australian teams tend to love it. You get any sense of that yet?
Well, I mean, look, there is. I'm talking about. I have a stack of newspapers here, beside me, and there is some good stuff on the Matildas and the World Cup. We're still a week away from it. Like, the back pages are rugby league. It's like we're not there yet that it's wall to wall yet. But I mean, the fact that the
The
game
Ashes is
sold out,
on too, which will
the
obviously
Ashes is on.
attract
Right?
a
Look,
lot of attention.
It's a sports crazy country. But I think when we actually see the stadium next week, like there's a suspicion that this is sold out. Is it because of enormous Aussie on home soil, or is it, or the diaspora, is this going to be a giant stadium job where they walk out and there's more green than yellow? I mean, we hope so, but that could happen. There's such a huge Irish community here, and we know that there's a lot of people traveling for it as well. You'd expect that, of course, Australia are going to get behind their own team, and they will feel they have a chance to win this tournament. But don't be surprised if it looks more like a 50-50 split next week when they come out at the airport.
Conor, we were happy to.
The interesting thing about the Giant Stadium game is most of the Irish fans that day were Americans, effectively, as has been disclosed by Irish fans who were there.
Conor, we were heartened to hear Vera Pauw say the most important thing about the pitch is it is flat, because there had been a few whispers that perhaps the training facilities, PTSD setting in for some of us here of a certain age, that the training facilities weren't up to snuff. But Vera did her best to dampen that down. That would have been an unfortunate bit of history repeating.
Yeah, although we didn't hear it wasn't flat in Saipan either, so there may not be much. It was just very hard, as I recall. I believe it was hard. Yeah, no,
I think there were holes. I think
we're very
holes.
sensitive to those kind of whispers, and certainly, they hadn't trained on it when Vera spoke to Tony yesterday, and her kind of comments in support of the surface didn't sound too reassuring, to be honest. The biggest thing is that it's flat, isn't
Yeah. Any update on that, Anthony?
The grandest praise a groundsman can ever hear, I don't think. But
have you got out the spirit level? Have we established the pitch is indeed flat? Is it okay?
No. Well, no, I haven't gone that far. But no, look, she just reiterated that she was happy with the base. I think it was a late change. FIFA implemented a late change, didn't they? So she's generally regularly taking the chance to stress how happy she's been with the FAI support, throughout the last 2 years. So, talking about the flight over and the fact that they're business class, and there's been no grumblings up to now in that regard, certainly. So, maybe in the next couple of days it will be something will come to light, but at the minute she seems happy and content.
No, we don't want to be wishing. Obviously, we don't want you to have.
No, absolutely.
we want you to have some stories to get your teeth into, but we're certainly not wishing for Saipan down under here. I don't think Tony O'Donoghue could live through a second one, to be honest with you.
No, and look, we're in a group with Nigeria and Canada who have not had serene journeys to this point, and obviously just everything that's going on in Nigeria. So we just want, from Ireland's point of view, you do want things to go as smoothly as possible, because things are going to be difficult enough without any unwanted controversies.
Yeah, and Colombia now, aren't they? I mean, is there any sense of will you get to see that, or do we know what's happening?
No, we won't. Well, it's that game is behind closed doors. But what we do know is that there'll be 2 different 11s. Like, she'll start with, I would say, her strongest, her team that's going to start against France, and then there'll be a completely different 11 in the second half. So, like, the juggling act that she has is obviously keeping everybody in the squad happy and motivated and believing that they're going to be a part of this. And I don't think that's an issue. I don't think that's an issue. Like, this is a once in a lifetime thing for these players, an incredible experience. They all know the stakes. I think maybe, and again, not to be overly negative on this, but perhaps there could be issues further down the line. I mean, Ireland have a Nations League campaign to come, and it starts in September when they play Northern Ireland at the Aviva Stadium. Maybe some disgruntlement of players who've been omitted or will feel that they should have got more of a chance, will have to be handled by her a little more closely then. But right now they're in camp, they're in the bubble. The buzz is building, the magnitude of this whole thing, that they, all the players don't understand that. So, they'll be doing everything on the training pitch and in whatever 45 minutes they get against Colombia to put their hand up. Because the one thing they have seen under Vera Pauw, as we've already referenced with, say, Lucy Quinn, is that and Izzy Atkinson, if you impress her when you get her chance, she's open to putting in. You know, she's takes the training performance in particular very, very seriously. So the door's not fully shut. I mean, as much as we know the first 11, we know that because she's basically confirmed it herself. But that doesn't mean that 11 is going to stay the same for the second match and the third match. You know, there's a tight recovery time here too. And again, you know, look, I as I said, we spoke to some of the backroom team, and Pauw herself has chatted about this before. Like, there's an awful lot of data that they look at, like the recovery times and the GPS numbers. That's a big thing for her. So if somebody dips for whatever reason, or they think, okay, the performance here, she's not quite ready to go again against Canada in that second game, that type of thing can open up a door for somebody and give them an opportunity to come in.
Okay. We'll touch on that next week when we return, obviously, but like the issues with Canada and Nigeria, even England, who are probably the best funded team at the tournament, or up there with the USA in terms of that, at least, you know, they have a dispute over their bonuses as well. There's a chance this could sully things, Conor, and it seems kind of shitty, really, that heading into the World Cup, that some of the competitors some like Nigeria are arguing over wages that haven't been paid for a matter of years. Canada they kind of front loaded their row and got it out of the way quite a long time ago. But even England, like, it does, like, considering, you know, the money that's been thrown at this by FIFA, by a lot of broadcasters, by the organizations themselves, to have the players kind of fighting for money, which echoes with what's going on in women's sport in Gaelic games as well. It's not a great look, really, is it?
Yeah, it could cast a pall over it, and it's particularly surprising given how successful the recent tournaments have been, the 2019 World Cup and the Euros last year. I mean, particularly shocking with England, given how successful they've been, how prominent they are. I mean, they obviously won the Euros last year. They're going to make a big play to win this World Cup, and that can't obviously help their preparation to have this bubbling away in the background. I mean, we've heard it before with their men's team decades ago, but to have this surfacing for them is particularly surprising. You know, the issue with Nigeria could potentially play into Ireland's hands. I know Vera Pauw said today she didn't expect, well, I suppose she has to say this, but she didn't expect it to influence the Nigerians on the field of play, and they'll focus on that. So Ireland obviously can't treat that as a jackpot deal, but yeah, it's you'd hope that these things are ironed out. Maybe not in the case of Nigeria from Ireland's perspective, but you would for the sake of the tournament, it would be better if these sort of stories were dealt with. And it is surprising that federations haven't got in gear for it, given that it's looming down the tracks. Yeah,
and Anthony, FIFA have, you know, from the flying the players out business class to kind of the bonuses that have been approved. God knows we give FIFA enough criticism, but they're not skimping on this tournament, it would seem, from their point of view.
No, but look, I mean, Gavin Cooney has a very good piece on this sort of team in the 42 today. Once progress is made, you never go back. So players know now what they are. You know, they fought so hard to get everything that they have to this point that there's no backward step here. So, you know, they've been liberated by the battles that they've won, you know, across several countries, including the Republic of Ireland. I will say, and this is just, again, going off on the side tangent, but on Nigeria, I don't think them being in turmoil is good for Ireland in footballing terms of the group, because I fancy them to potentially nick points off either Canada and Australia, which would open up the group a little bit more. So you kind of want them strong, and they are capable. They've got some, you know, Oshola is again world-class talent up front, the Barcelona striker, and they have dangerous players who could maybe do some damage. So look, we don't want to be talking about these things. We want to be focusing on the football and the great players that we're going to be seeing over the next few weeks, especially in our group, which is probably, well, arguably the strongest group at this World Cup. But you know, these issues are there, and the players are right to drag them into the light. And you know, we'll see what happens. And, you know, Nigeria seems to have settled down. Their issues seem to have settled down. There was talk that they potentially might boycott their first game, but that's sort of being dismissed now. Their captain said that's not going to be the case. So as I said, we all want to focus on the football, but these things have to be raised, they have to be talked about, and be discussed.
Okay. Right. We might leave it at that, lads. We'll let Anthony get to bed. There's a lovely man-made beach on the river there, Anthony. I don't know whether it's something you do in winter, but that's about the only thing I remember really doing in Brisbane. It's very nice, but might be a bit chilly. What is the temperature during the day?
It's a kind of late high teens, early 20s.
You'll be grand. Go swim in the river. You'll have a lovely time. Be refreshing.
Yeah, just right for tasty Irish fellow like yourself.
Absolutely. We will be back on Monday and every day thereafter with Anthony, a rolling cast of the RTE crew out in Australia, including pundits.
Is Anthony on every day? He is.
I know there'll be some days where he has to travel in steerage, but he's traveling in a kangaroo squashing articulated lorry across the outback. He won't be able to do the podcast.
It could be good.
It could be. I know, but we are going to give Anthony a day off here or there. So we'll draft in some of his colleagues out there, and we'll have plenty of RTE pundits, both home based and Australia based, pitching in as well. So do join us. And of course, a reminder: every game is live on RTE television, and with the Ireland games live on RTE 2FM. But we'll remind you of all that a bit closer to the time. So we will chat to you on Monday. Thank you to Anthony and thank you to Conor, and we'll talk to you then. Good luck. Bye.
Supporter and a half likes, shares, comments and tweets. Cadbury sponsors RTE Soccer Women's World Cup podcast.